curious to see what video quality is tonight. This will probably be pretty cheesy, but such is life. Looks like we're live. Good. Let's do some mini painting. So tonight, I'm still facing some of this illness. Obviously, still there. My throat's still a little unhappy, but I can paint some minis. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. This is this ambush maw. I painted up a little bit recently. Just threw some red paint on there. I want to paint around the stones, I think, tonight. At least get those done. And then maybe add some detail to the sides of the maw. Add in maybe a lighter red around it. I'm not quite sure. Probably do a little playing around with color there, but this should be something to play around with. I also have this hell key that I want to add some red blood to. Should be fun, just daubing it on here and there. Got a few other things I want to sort of finish out tonight. This altar, these ladders, and maybe some of these little minis. I have some actual minis here. I might want to get into painting up some. So it might be worth doing. I've got a bunch of these. That's not a bad idea. These are all from, actually they're not going to be back in that time period for a while. I mean, maybe they will. We'll see. But yeah, I might do a bit more with these things. Got some other things there that I haven't quite cleaned up yet. So yeah, that's a good start. Oh, I should also do, I have these altars here that have this little flame at the top. And I kind of like to add some red and yellow to that. So we'll see. Well, let's get started with a little glove action here. Normally we do this on Wednesdays. We're on Thursday tonight because yesterday was Halloween. I want to get something going. Let me grab some bowls for our custom colors because I think I want a significant amount of this red, whatever it's going to end up being. Let me Google a little bit of this. It's called an ambush maw by the guy who made it. I just want to see the color scheme he used to get a sense. Okay, he actually went for something darker, which is rather cool. So maybe I'll do that. I'll go with something more, just darker. Let's grab some red and maybe some gray, maybe even some black, just some straight up black. Maybe some red and some brown would work nicely. I have this deep, yeah, that should be a good amount, maybe a little bit more actually. Yeah, well, let's start there, and then we'll see if we can add. I got this dark brown, yeah, which may be a new, yeah, this is a new container. So we will make use of that one as well. I don't know if I'll be able to. Yeah, I should be able to. There's a little bit of red in that. I shouldn't cross the streams. So let's grab some of that brown and mix it in with the red, and we'll just see what we end up with when you mix these two together. Dark colors tend to overwhelm lighter colors. Ooh, that's looking nice. Yeah, I kind of like that. That right there. I think that'll add an interesting element to it. This sort of muddy red. Okay, so I'm going to grab a relatively small brush by brush standards, and I'm going to start on these. I'll add the gray around there a little later, I think. Let me just brush on some of this stuff. Looks like what he did actually is he brushed in certain parts of it. So he sort of brushed around the inner parts with this, but kind of left the bulging bits the original color, which is an interesting choice. I'm going to try that. Let's see what it does. See if we end up with anything interesting we want to continue. Trying to be very light relatively light on the amount of paint I'm adding here. As usual, it's not the first coat you put on, it's the third or fourth coat that really makes it look amazing. So I'm okay with the fact that this looks a little silly right now, because I am willing to believe that once I've added a bunch of different coats of paint, it'll really look interesting. Okay, yeah, I like brushing in. Ooh, I've got some red right there on my, I don't know where that came from. Get that off. Let's rearrange a little bit so it's a little easier. Yeah. So I think just brushing in here creates this sense of depth. Try not to make it too obvious. Brush that in a little bit. But it gives it some, I guess, some sense of something a little different. I'm going to grab some very lightly on the brush and just brush it on here. I want, there's almost a sense of mud on there. Not a lot of this color. Maybe a little on the underside there as well. A little in there. Okay, so that adds, yeah, it adds a little something extra to the head, which I rather like. Okay, I think that's a pretty good start there for this thing. All right, let's continue. See where this goes. Like I said, basically working this into these joints between the sections, but also overlapping it pretty significantly. So it's not just, it doesn't want to look, I don't want it to look striped. I want it to look more like, just more organic. So I'm also rubbing up and down somewhat, so it blurs that line as much as I can. And I'm deliberately being a little imprecise with my lines here, because I'm okay with having a lot of this color and just some of the undercolor peeking out. Okay with this kind of overwhelming the brighter color, the lighter color a little bit here and there, because that is what colors do on actual creatures. It's not, unless you're like a snake or something, you see a lot of this variation in like plumage and coloration. It's not a straight difference between one and the other. Alright, give it this down here. I might actually have a lot on the base. Kind of like the idea that this is pretty dark at the bottom. In fact, I might go back in here and get a lot of this color on the bottom couple of rows there, and just really deepen that. I don't know. I'm not sure what I think of that. It's kind of interesting. Yeah, I kind of like that. Oops. Yeah, I think that's a little too regular at the bottom, so I'm just going to go in with a little bit of paint on the brush and push in paint all along in lots of the little crevices in the base of this. Not getting on every single millimeter of it, but covering a lot of it. Yeah, I like that. Okay. Oh, and then we still need to cover the top here. So let's do that. Do the head or the maw of these sort of tentacle things. Again, I'm just brushing this on as a sense of coloration, not really to get it even or exact, just so there are multiple colors at work there. Cool, that's that. We'll do the third one now, which is smaller. And we'll brush that in to those crevices. Yeah. It's really easy for this to start looking like stripes. So I'll definitely be going back in here and adding some more color. Just really brushing that in. Yep, that's nice. Put some up here. With a lot of paint on the brush, I want to get that into those areas which need a lot of paint, but less so down there where I'm kind of trying to push it and not cover every single spot. Okay. I think I'm going to be a lot more gentle on this one. I think he needs a little less in the way of this. It might be more a matter of just dabbing some in here and there for effect, as opposed to getting those very strong delineations. Yeah, I'm liking that. Liking that a lot more. Just a little paint on the brush. Whoops, it's a little too much. It's okay. And just dab that off. Use it in other places. Smear it around a bit. He's going to have a browner head than the other ones. Okay. There we go. There we go. Okay. Cool. That's looking kind of nice. We'll do the final one. Pretty normal size here compared to the other ones. And he actually has a fair amount of little white spots that I didn't get all the paint in. So this will be a good opportunity to cover those. Yeah, this is definitely improved with the second coat, which is good to know. It helps. I'll probably come back with yet another color, maybe even a little brighter, maybe even dingier, and just brush that on here and there, just to give it some extra oomph. Minis often need some extra oomph. Okay. I do end up with a lot of paint. I often do that. I'm not quite sure what I can do with this much really dark paint. It doesn't look that much like blood is the problem. So it's a kind of a tough color to do too much with. Just brush a bit of that on other spots. I can do that because I know I didn't touch any of that part of the creature, by the way. Okay. Brush some more of this up. Again, I like the darker color on the bottom. That sense that it's slightly darker on the bottom and gets a little lighter as it goes up. Okay, that's pretty cool. And then I think I'll just brush. Well, no, need a little more on the brush. Paint on the bottom of that. Paint on that side. A little on that. Yeah, I think it'll be a fairly dark head. Just for grins. definitely want to come back and add something to the inside as well. I wonder what the color would look like for the inside of the mouths. I'm going to actually darken this color itself up for the inside of the mouth. That might work rather well. Okay, so now we have the center of them all. And I'm just going to use little bits of this paint and just kind of go around. It's actually a lot. And just kind of daub it everywhere. I just kind of want this sense of, you know, of it not being a single color of creature. This idea that this, you know, it has different colorations. You can use a fair amount on the inside and then kind of draw it up and get it on those different spots. Nothing wrong with that. So I'm essentially painting the bottom and then drawing that paint up the inside of the maw to give it a bit of a coloration change. And we'll grab more there. I'm pretty much out of paint on the brush at that point. Let's brush as much as we can off. Do a bit more there. Yeah. Yeah, that's starting to look a little different, you know. Like it has some character. That's rather nice. I don't like those brush marks there. Let me see if I can blend that in a bit. There. Should never be able to see a clear delineation between this stuff. That's good. That's feeling, like I said, it's feeling a little different. It's feeling a little more like a fleshy mass. Okay. That's that. For now. Make sure I've gotten all the little white spots I could possibly get. I think so. Okay. Yeah, let me go ahead and darken this up a bit for the inside of the mouths. So I think, do I just go ahead and use coal? Just a straight up black? Maybe. So I'm going to try to be careful here and mix up some of this black with some of this on one side. So I have, yeah, that's probably all I need. But I don't need much paint to begin with. So I'm going to try to drag over some of this red and mix it with the black over here, which doesn't really want to mix much, but it's mixing, to get my inner mouth color. It's turning mostly black, to be honest. That's not a bad thing. Okay. I think I can use that. Let me grab another brush. I'll grab yeah, this is a fairly small brush. I think I need something smaller. Yeah, I'm going to grab a very small brush for the inside of the mouths. I'm just going to grab this almost black color and just brush that on the inside of the mouths. Now, the inside of an actual mouth, when you shine a light into it, is actually pretty bright. But for creatures, you don't necessarily want that. You don't necessarily want people to see that part of the creature. You want to kind of draw attention away from the mouth, in my opinion. So I like my mouths to be fairly dark. But that is just the way I like to do things. Now you can certainly also do the tongue, make the tongue a little more visible, because that tends to add to the horror if you're looking for that kind of an effect. I like to go with pretty dark mouths, just to give the players that idea of what's in there. What am I going to see? Got a little on the side. I might just, yeah. Just rub that off. Okay. No, that's fine. The paint is such a thin layer on here. One of the nice things is I don't really have to worry too much about picking them up. You know, I may rub a little bit of the dark paint off, but not a significant amount. So I'm actually going to try to keep the tongue unpainted in the mouth. See what that does? See what I can do there? cover that. Good. Good. My hands are shaking like the dickens tonight, which sometimes happens. Doesn't help that these are kind of hard to hold down. Okay, that I'm okay with for the inside of the mouths. There. Same idea. Yeah, I'm just gonna have to hold it with my hand. Probably get a little bit of ink or paint on the hand. That's okay. Not the worst thing in the world. Oh, they've got a tongue that's kind of on both sides. Interesting. I noticed there was a lump on the other one. It turns out that, yep. There we go. Cool. Now we have the inside maw of that one. Do I want? Yeah, I think I'm going to add a little bit of this to the very bottom of that. Now it's wet down there. So I know it's going to mix, which is fine. But yeah, so the very bottom of that maw is now that dark color, which I think makes sense. All right, that's good. That's fine. I'm going to pause there with that. We want the blood on the key. Let's go ahead and do that. This is what I was using for the dark red. So let's add some blood on the key. This is going to be a little delicate because I want kind of a hint of this just on the edges. Like I want the idea that this is scraped against things, or that maybe this was ripped from someone's body, and so there's kind of blood on it from being ripped from the body, but it's not, it's not covered in blood. I want it to be fairly subtle. I'll probably need a lot there, I think. I'll probably need multiple. I need multiple different colors here. So I want a fair amount on the edges there, on the tips. And I want a fair amount on the very end to represent that idea of it going into or out of something. Fairly nasty idea. But it is a key to hell after all. Should be fairly nasty. I think I want more than that. Again, I'm trying to avoid large patches of this color. I want this to feel almost like it's been washed of blood and then reused over and over to go into things. I still want it to feel like it's bone there. Although I could just go a little crazy and just almost, cover it in blood. So it's like blood caked, blood soaked. But no, I don't think so. Not today. Yeah. I definitely like having it on all of the edges, all of those. Oops, that's too much. So let me get a bit off of the brush and then try to, yeah. I think I can sort of push that off. Yeah, okay. See if we can get some in some of these crevices. If I can get this very, very lightly dusted with, yeah, that's nice. Just a dusting of blood on the various surfaces here. That's a nice effect. I mean, it's a horrible effect, but it's a nice effect for this. It also highlights some of the detail. Lets the eye catch some of those details. Now the other side, oops. A bit more there, I think. Ooh, too much. Too much, too much, too much, too much, too much, too much. Gotta be careful. I'm definitely not familiar with the best ways of doing blood. I fully admit that is not my forte. Not something I spend a lot of time on. Yeah, I kind of feel like the more blood I put on this, the better it looks, frankly. This feels appropriately weird and creepy. Let me check something real quick. Okay. So yeah, we'll add some up here as well. Let me make sure we get in all of those different angles. It's important to look at one of these things from if I look at these things from multiple angles, it's easy to miss stuff that would look kind of nice if you had just that extra little hint there. It's like, oh yeah, I might just, yeah, I think we need a lot on this side. Yeah, that's cool. Okay. A little bit more on the other side. Trying to figure out exactly how this would be used. Don't know. I feel now that we have blood here, there should be more blood on the blade itself. So let's try, or on the on whatever that is, the neck maybe. I don't know. Yeah, and I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take some of that dark brown and put some of that on as well to give you that idea of very dried blood. Of old dried blood. Yeah, that's looking good. So I think, yeah, that looks great on that side, in the sense of looking horribly horrendous. But if we now grab this and do something like that, I wonder, does that look even better, or does it just look weird? No, I don't like that brown color. It looks like dirt. Okay, so there's actually a little bit, and I'm going to cross the streams here, of brighter red right in there. I'm going to try to pull out and spread on there. Obviously, it's going to mix a bit with the brown, but that's actually kind of nice. That weird sense of that. It's almost like a wound there. That's kind of cool. A little bit more of that, maybe. Yeah, that brighter red. Ooh, yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. Okay. Let me get a bit more up here. Not really. Hard to grab. No, that's just darker. Okay. Still, that's looking much more like it was torn fresh from, some poor soul's innards. Let's just add a bit more. I want some, yeah, let's get in here. The insides. Get that brushed around. Okay. Yeah, I want more in that spot as well. Yeah, I'm gonna more or less cover it with blood. Didn't think I'd do that, but look at that. All right. Yeah, I really like having the blood there. add some more on this end. I feel like it should definitely be more pronounced, or not pronounced, but we should have a bit more nastiness up in here. Actually, maybe let's grab some of the darker stuff and brush that in over here. Like this is the older bit of the key. It's had a little bit more dried blood on it. That's kind of interesting. Interesting concept. Yeah, just the slight extra coloration, I think, gets you that sense that the one end is kind of more raw than the other. And we'll try to brush that in a lot of the little places here. Okay, I'm just gonna have to, yeah. Interesting. Not a huge fan of how that's turning out. So I might add some red. Again, I'm okay with crossing these streams in terms of getting different colors of paint on the same brush, because I don't plan to really do too much with this otherwise. Like I'm not preserving that red or that brown, so I can kind of do that. Okay, yeah. A little more brown. Maybe stab it in some of these notches. Buenos noches. Very much not buenos noches. Mal noches. Okay, yeah. I think we need some more on the inside of the ring too. It's a little strange. The inside of that ring is so white. I just want some sense of dirtiness to it. Everything about this ring should be, or this key, should feel just weird, creepy. Okay. Then we'll brush that out. Yeah. Interesting that blackness gives a sense of being charred almost. That's neat. It's an interesting sense. Interesting implication. Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. So it's almost like the inside of the ring is scorched. Let's emphasize that. Put a lot more of this dark brown on the inside of the ring, and then blend it by just brushing it up. Cool. All right. I do believe we have a hell ring now. It tends to stick a lot. So if you're a hand of that key, hell key. If you're a hand of that key, I don't think you'd be particularly thrilled to use it, right? This is, I just noticed, far too clean. So let's fix that. Let's give that some more blood. Now that we have that sense, we want this to feel just covered in blood. I should have done this on Halloween. Oh well. Such is life. Things don't always work out. We'll do a little more down there as well. Good. Okay. Again, I'm trying to resist that temptation to go overboard, in which case it will end up looking more or less just one solid Okay, so that's that. I actually want to layer this on something. Let me just grab some. Oh, you know what? Move that out of the way. Put that up here. So it's drawing kind of up in the air a little bit. All right, that's some good progress. Now, let's look at some fire. I'm not good at flame. So for me, I need to look at flame to get a sense. That's right. It starts white. Well, it doesn't really start white. It's yellow and then orange. So I really don't need any red at all. So let me. Actually, this is pretty much okay. Let me grab some yellow. And I think I'm just going to start. I'll grab a very detailed, a very small brush. Small brush there. I'm just going to dip into the yellow and basically just make this all yellow, as much as I can get. Then I'll come back with some orange for the tippy top, I think. I think that will be a more accurate fire. Than if I try to get more specific. Unfortunately, the gray on there does not want to be hidden by this yellow. The gray is very much shining through the yellow, so to speak. So that might be something I have to really work with. I might have to really layer on the orange on those spots. We'll find out. But right now, just trying to get yellow on all of those. And like I said, that'll be, I don't know if I said it yet. Like that'll certainly be better than just white. It'll be a plus compared to what we have now, and that's usually all I'm looking for at any given time. You know, just make things look better, not ideal on the very first step. Okay, yeah, that gray is still showing through the yellow. Okay. But I think we can make it work. So there's the start of some fire on that one. Getting an idea. But like you can see, it definitely feels more like fire than that white. So let's again clear some space. Where's my red top? So we'll need that red in a minute, but actually the dark chocolate we can cap up as well. In fact, let's take a moment. We can go in for about half an hour to pause and reset, if you will, so that we're not going crazy and knocking things over. So, okay. So what I'll do, once I'm done with this, I'll grab my gray, I'll fill in, I have some spots on this altar that needs filling in, and actually I'll probably splash it with some of that red. That'll look pretty cool. So I just need to daub in some gray here and there. And I'll also use that gray on the stones at the base of these creatures. And then we'll see where we are. That might be all for this evening. Who knows? That would be a lot to accomplish in one evening, to be honest. Of just getting together and painting minis, which is always fun. I always enjoy doing this. I'm glad whoever's here is watching this, because I find this to be an interesting time. I'm learning. I hope you're learning too, as we dig into these various aspects of painting minis, and just looking at things and getting a sense of, okay, that's a thing. I want it to look like that though, and so let's try that. And we end up with something. Maybe not something perfect, but something better than what we had before. And isn't that kind of the point? Only God is perfect, as they say in, I think it's Hinduism. Okay, so there's a little yellow flame, and we'll do this over here. Ooh, a lot of gray on this one. That might actually work out well, having a little bit of darkness to some of these flames, when we put the orange on, it might just add some variety. It won't look like gray. It'll just look like a darker shade of orange, perhaps. That's possible. So let's just go ahead and get this paint in. And I'm just slathering it on. No particular attempt to be detailed here, but this is why I have these really small brushes. Because with a thick brush, I'd be getting yellow everywhere on all sorts of other things. Because I have a small brush, I can be very surgical with my painting in these very tight places. So if you're painting minis, and I know you may already have some brushes here and there, but if you don't have a really small brush, it is worth going to your local craft store and picking up just one or two of these really small brushes. Again, this is something I'm just learning. I've just been learning recently, in that I finally went out and got a really, really small brush, or two of them actually, and it definitely helps hugely. All right, I'll see if I can't sort of slather the top with yellow, cover as much of that gray as I can. Okay, so there's the yellow top. Good, so that's done. And like I said, now I want to do, I don't want to do the orange yet because that yellow is still drying. So let's put the red back. And we don't need the yellow anymore, so put the yellow back. Let's grab the gray, which I think is, yep, slate. What have I got? I've actually got a couple different brushes here. I've got a fairly small one. I think that'll be ideal. Yeah, that'll be good. It's a sort of a medium-sized brush by mini standards, but it's pretty wide. So this is something I'd want to use for globbing on paint onto things. And not going to have a lot of detail to it, but I think it'll work well for what we're doing here. But to find out, I'm just grabbing some gray and just brushing it on these rocks. If I want these rocks to look better, I'll definitely come back in and add some, like a darker gray that I'll brush into the crevices and such. A black wash on these rocks would definitely help a lot. A black wash just being, or a wet wash rather, a wet wash just being paint diluted in water and then spread on, with any excess taken off. Because what happens is the watered down paint drips into the crevices and stays there. We can pull it off all the surfaces, so you get this nice, this nice detail from that. So I'm just slathering on paint, trying to carefully go in. What I'll probably do, actually, I'm changing my tactics. I'm going to go around. I'm not going to try to get in close to the creature just yet. I'm just going to get all of the surfaces around there. Then I'll go in. Actually, no. I'm going to go in. There we go. Very carefully. Oops, I've got some laundry to take care of. Laundry, rather. That's looking pretty good, actually. So the secret to getting paint in next to the creature is to do it when you have very little paint on your brush. You just kind of edge in there. Okay, I'll be back in about 15 seconds. Alexa, stop. There we go. We'll just let the laundry go in the dryer and come back to it later. All right. So yeah, back to this. Oh, I need to do those ladders too. I almost forgot. Okay, let's get the rest of this paint on. So I'm just slathering the paint on. I'm gonna try a different. There we go. That gives me a better grip. Okay. Again, I'm just getting the outsides of this with the brush. And now that I know I have less paint on, I'm going to go in near the actual monster and try to get the gray in there. That way I can be reasonably certain that I'm not going to get a huge amount of paint anywhere. And I probably won't get any on the creature. There we go. Okay, good. So that looks like it's coming out of the rock. I don't have a lot of gray on the creature itself. Pretty happy with that. Okay. Look around for any other bits of the rock I didn't get. All right, I think we're good there. So there's, I can get a bit more on that side. There we go. Okay. That will definitely benefit from some extra coloration, some darker grays and lighter grays perhaps. But that's for later. For now, we're just getting the basics of this gray on. And as you can see, it definitely makes it look like a more awesome creature. So just getting this paint on all the way around. So I'm seeing less and less paint on here. You can see how I'm getting less and less on my brush. So now I can go into those spots and carefully brush in. And get that paint, get that gray on the rocks without getting on the creature. I'm actually surprised at how well that's working. Like, I honestly expected to have a lot more gray on it. Do I have? Yeah, there's a little bit of a plastic there that should have popped off with the filament, but oh well. I'll get the rest of that in. Go in here. Also helps to actually look at your brush, see where the paint is. You can see there's a big glob of paint, kind of, you probably can't. There's a big glob of paint on one side of the brush, and so I'm being careful to keep that away from anything so it doesn't accidentally brush up against something. Yep, got a little bit of gray on the creature. Yep. Gonna go kill myself now. Okay, good. That's fine. That's fine. There. Now we look around for anywhere else we may have missed. Oh, yep, there's a little crevice in there. Crevice in there. Crevice there. Okay. Yeah, good. That feels like a creature coming out of the rock. Pull that down there. Anywhere else I can... Sometimes with your fingers on it, you know, you'll rub away some of the gray. Good. You know what? No, I'm going to put these over here because otherwise I will not get to them with my hand. So let's go down in. Wow, that's a lot of gray. That's a bit much. Kind of dunked it straight into the pot. Let me get as much as I can onto the easier to paint surfaces. And now that it's mostly off, I can start getting into those more delicate surfaces. And each one of these is modeled separately. So you're going to see different formations of rocks. In other words, none of these tentacles are the same. So none of the stones are exactly the same that I know of. Which I really like, actually. That it feels very, very distinctive, very different. Looking forward to having my players face this thing. It's going to be a long trek for them in this part of the adventure. They'll be literally going through hell. Okay. Stone, stone, there. Good. There. There. Yep, got a little bit up on the creature. Okay. And yeah, I definitely want this over here. Always worth it to go in and get those little bits now when you see them, instead of waiting till later and saying, "Oh, I'll just come back later and I'll pop up in the gray again and all that." You won't. Too easy to forget and not notice. Just do it when you get the chance. Do it when you see it. All right. I've got less paint on the brush, so I'm gonna go up. Oh, got some paint on it. I'm being careless. I can tell now. So let me pull back for a moment. Okay. Now I have so little paint on the brush, actually. There's not much I can do. Get some off there. And then try to push in. I can do some. Okay, I've gone beyond the point of utility. Get that in there. Now we can be more careful. Go in, get there. Cool. Get that in there. Push that in. So I got a lot of paint on the brush. Alright, let me actually just get some off. Okay. Now I'm going to carefully go in here and brush those little crevices. There we go. Some more crevices. Okay. That one right there. Yep. Good. This kind of awkward thing here. All right, I think we've got all the tentacles done. That feels good. There. Ooh. Get some of that painted there. All right. Now we will do the center one, which is a big one. Let me move the camera a little bit. There. Actually, can I move it a little bit more? There we are. Don't have to move over quite as much. All right. Let's get painting. Just slathering it all on. Just getting paint everywhere. Kind of going from just starting in one spot and going from there to the next spot. This isn't particularly complicated, I don't think. I'm not sure if this is the right way to do it, or the best way to do it, but it's the way I'm doing it right now. It seems to be working. All right. Just kind of pushing some gray onto that. Carefully. Carefully. Okay. Try to get... One of the nice things about how this worked out, is what I was kind of trying to do, is I slathered some extra red stuff onto the stones. I was fine with having some extra red on the stones because that kind of looks like blood. So I figure I can be a little stingy with the gray, and it'll look like there's blood spilling over the stones, rather than trying to make the stones go all the way up to the very edge and get that exact line. I can kind of fudge it a bit with that red. At least that's kind of the idea there. Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna kind of trying to be as close as I can, but yeah, that helps. Doesn't look quite as. I don't have to be quite as exact. All right, get that there. There's a stone like right there. Oops, got some gray on him. It's hard. Obviously, I need to slow down a bit more. Okay. Oh, there's a bit too much paint on the brush. Let's pay closer attention and really focus in. It's too easy to just become blithe about this. That's not how I want to be. I want to give my full attention to this, and I've got too much paint on the brush. There we go. Okay. Now I can go in there and get those little corners and edges. Okay. I'm pretty good, if I do say so myself. Yep. Need a bit more if I can get this from the side, where it's not going to gloop as much. Okay, do that there, that there, that there, that there. Yeah, bit of stone in there. We're pretty much there. That's exciting. Okay, boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. Okay. Hit that rock. There we are. As much of that rock as I can. Okay. Cool. Let's come back around on these edges, which I'm sure that's just my fingers rubbing off the paint. We can get the rest of that paint down on all those bits, and then that's done. Huzzah. Yeah, it'll look much more awesome with an extra bunch of some extra grays in there, but that's definitely looking much more cool. All right, let's finish this up. Like I said, it needs some extra gray here and there. There's a bit of white, but I wanted to make sure I painted out. I think that's good. Not a lot, but it was noticeable. I wanted this to be a very much a gray altar. If I can get in there. Okay, now never mind. Ooh, I'm getting paint everywhere in there. Oof. See if I can't pull some of that out. It's gonna look a little weird. All right. Oopsie. I think that's all pretty good. All right, good. I'm fine with that. Don't need any more gray anywhere. I don't think so. All right. So, all I'm going to do now, I think, yeah, is I'm going to now grab the red, which I think was on this one, right? Yeah. I'm going to grab this red and spread it on the top of this altar, just to give it a little sense of ickiness. And I'll just brush off as much of that as I can, and just brush it on there. It's actually very light, lighter than I thought it would be. I might want that to be a little more, yeah, let me go a little more obvious. I'm going to try to put more in the middle than the sides. I don't want it on the, I should have done a wash to really get it into the holes. That's pretty important for this. So that's on me. We'll do some of the edges as well to represent victims being dragged off. In fact, maybe we'll do an extra, yeah. Do some up here. Over there. There we are. That's suitably unpleasant, I think. There's some dried blood on there. Okay. I might also spatter. I mean, not really spatter, but just get some of this on the rest of the altar itself. Just brush some blood onto the inside of it, representing like arterial spray or something, just to add to the unpleasantness, the general unpleasantness. I might even do some here. Yeah, I think just rubbing the lightest hint of that red onto these spikes will just add, again, that little sense of detail. That sense that maybe they dragged a body over and it dragged onto the spikes, maybe. Yeah, that definitely adds a little bit. I don't know if you can see it. Not with this lighting very well. But there's a slight hint of red on the spikes, which is rather nice. Get a bit more, if I can, on the sides as well to kind of to highlight that idea. I want more red on the edge. There we are. Okay, so there's our bloody altar. Very, very nice. What do I do these? I can do these real quick. Okay, so let's go ahead and finish up these ladders, which are this dark chocolate. This is going to take approximately no time at all. I'm just going to take this rather large brush. Doesn't really matter here, but I don't need to be careful here because I'm just slathering brown on this. Basically, I painted most of it. I accidentally painted the bottom of this, actually, which was not smart. Then put it down on the paper, which meant it stuck. So when I took it off the paper, it got all sorts of torn paper and a lot of the paint came off. I'm just slathering some brown on this just to give it its due. So there's that. And then again, this one. So here's one which did not get any brown on the bottom, really. There's a little bit on the paper that got on it. So I'm just finishing up this. So I now have my two ladders. Nothing too complicated about this. In fact, nothing complicated at all. I'm literally just slathering brown paint onto it. So that I now have these two ladders. Previously, all I was doing was putting brown paint on those. So there we go. There's both sides of the ladder. All done. Leave those to dry. That'll do it for this week for Workshop Wednesday. On Thursday, though. Hope this was fun for you all. Let me grab one more glove so I can show off my handiwork. Did not get to the minis, that's fine. But here are our maw tentacles painted up. Before I came here, I just had, again, just a simple coat of dark red on the main tentacle body, and then I added another coat of darker red, and put gray on the stone. You see that really added some. And then put some very dark brown into the maw itself and into the mouth, which just gives it a little extra something. I keep thinking that, parts of this will shine, and I think it's got white on it, but it's just the shininess of the paint, actually. So there are those. And then, of course, we have our maw itself, which looks pretty cool. I will probably come back into here and yellow those teeth, get a nice dirty yellow brown, very light yellow brown, and paint that on the teeth just very lightly. Brush that on there. Just give it sort of a sickly sense and add something to it. And then, like I said, I'll probably also come back with a wash of black. So I will dilute some black paint, brush it onto or not even probably black paint, some dark gray paint, brush it onto these stones, let it sit for a moment or two, wipe away the excess, and so you just get that dark gray paint in the crevices, which really just adds some depth. We have our bloody altar, which is just brushing some dark red onto the altar, and we have our little lamps here, which I think those are still drying, so I'm just going to add some orange to it. And then finally, later, our bloody hell key. That's pretty cool, I got to admit. That's something you do not want to come across in the dark of night and deal with, I would say. But yeah, that's a pretty nasty thing. So yeah, pretty successful night, I would say. Thank you all for joining me, and should be back next week. Until then, make something.